Some truths don't arrive when you go looking for them, they break in unannounced, turning a celebration into a reckoning. On the night that was supposed to be about triumph and applause, Barry's Arduç let slip a revelation that turned every spotlight in the room inward. He stood at the gala for his new series, applause rolling like thunder, cameras choreographing every polished angle, and then, almost too softly to believe, came a line that rippled across every newsroom and timeline. After the gala, I called Elsen. I couldn't stop myself. Whether you see it as a confession, a slip, or the kind of honesty that surfaces when the music stops, it reoriented the evening. The actor who has always worn composure like a perfectly tailored suit let the lining show, and it was startlingly human. On screen, he was impeccable, offering smiles that read like headlines and poses that felt curated for the press. But those who were there described something the lenses didn't capture. Between one flash and the next, his eyes would drift away from the bright stage to a private horizon, as though a memory had snuck into the room and refused to leave. More than one guest noticed him checking his phone, not casually, but repeatedly, as if hoping for an answer to a question he hadn't yet asked. And after the applause faded into the Istanbul night, when he finally went home and the door clicked shut, the last barrier gave way. He reached for his phone, scrolled through contact names he knows by heart, and pressed call. Later, when reporters pressed him about it, he didn't dress it up. I needed to hear her voice, he said, eyes shining in a way that felt both fragile and resolute. The story of Barış and Elsen has long been an anthem among audiences in Turkey and far beyond. Together they carried a romance so vivid on screen that it spilled into the spaces between episodes, interviews, and years. Even when the noise quieted, even when their paths seemed to split in polite, professional ways, something in the public imagination insisted on keeping their connection alive. Rumors sprouted endlessly. Were there creative disagreements, outside pressures, the relentless timing of careers at their peak? Speculation never found a resting place, and yet a single thread kept weaving through every theory, that whatever once beat between them hadn't died. It had only retreated where the lights don't reach. Now that phone call tugged it back toward the surface. Can one call made in the hush after a gala reopen a book that was shelved with ceremony? Or is it just a late-night echo destined to fade by morning? Tell me what you think. While the world tried to process what Barış had implied, the response from Elsen did not arrive as a press note or a carefully staged sit-down. It came tinted in sunset hues and a caption that felt like a sigh. On a private account, one of those quiet corners of the internet where you only show what you mean to, she shared a photo of a sky blushing toward evening and wrote, "There are calls you never expect, and yet you can't refuse." Was it about him? A stray thought caught in amber? A missive meant for a single pair of eyes? Theories exploded into constellations overnight. No one had proof, but everyone had a reading. Then came whispers from the set of the new series. A member of the production team, protective but candid, mentioned that in the days leading up to the gala, Barış had been unusually inward. Not irritable, not messy, just quieter than usual, like he was holding a conversation with himself and was reluctant to let anyone else listen. The night after the gala, he was seen in a small cafe in Cihangir, sitting near the window, a notebook open, pen moving steadily. When a fan approached, tentative and kind, and asked if he was all right, he replied with a half-smile, "Sometimes it's easier to write what you cannot say." Maybe he was writing to her. Maybe about her. Or maybe he was simply trying to make sense of a heart that had finally outpaced his restraint. The next morning, when the journalists found him outside the studio gates, a detail caught every eye, a thin chain around his neck threaded through a ring. He has rarely worn jewelry like that, and almost never something so personal. The online sleuths sprinted. Within hours, feeds filled with side-by-side photos and receipts, the kind that fans assemble with a precision that would make detectives proud. The emerging theory was that the ring came from an old exchange, an anniversary, a private moment the rest of the world only guessed at. When someone asked him why he chose to wear it now, he did not deny or confirm, he simply said, with a softness that hurt to hear, "Don't ask me why. Some memories don't lose their date. If you live for love stories that feel like they stepped out of a script and into real life, you're in the right place." Stay with Secrets Behind the Stars, where we read the pauses as carefully as the words. And just when the conversation might have given way to a lull, a recording surfaced online. A voice note that, according to those who shared it, he sent to a trusted friend. The voice was unmistakable, low and unguarded, as if he'd dropped the last of his armor. Hearing her again felt like the first day. My hands were shaking. We barely said anything, but her silence said everything. When I hung up, what I felt wasn't emptiness. It was hope. Those lines ignited an already blazing story and sent it spinning with new force. From her side, information traveled carefully, as it often does when emotion is involved. A person close to Elsen confided, in words that sounded more like a confession than a report, that she had been overwhelmed. The call took her by surprise, and the past, no matter where it sits, had never entirely left her. One line filtered out and lodged itself in the collective memory. That story still burns in her. By then, the internet was in freefall. Old photos resurfaced, interviews replayed, scenes that once made an entire audience hold its breath were shared as if they were happening for the first time. People pointed to looks they swore meant more, to gestures that now seemed freighted with context. A single question loomed and multiplied. Is this the breath that revives a sleeping flame, or is it a haunting, a beautiful ghost that refuses to let the living move on? It's never simple when love intersects with spotlights and schedules. Endings in this world rarely come with a full stop. They run out of ink mid-sentence and leave space for the rest of the line to be imagined. The thread between Barış and Elsen has always seemed like that, unfinished, even when everyone insists the page has been turned. A phone call can be a bridge, or it can be a mirage. It can invite two people to meet again in the present, or it can pull them back into a place where neither can stay. Possibilities bloom in every direction. There's more. One evening later, someone spotted him again in that same Sehanger cafe, this time lingering longer than before. He wasn't hiding from the world, just sitting within it, listening to a playlist of old songs that shaped a generation, writing a little, deleting more. A server swears he sat still when a track from a series they led together came on, eyes bright as if a film were rolling only he could see. People nearby didn't bother him. They simply watched the way a person watches a scene they don't want to intrude on because they know it matters. And then came a subtle appearance from her side, not a headline, but a simple image of a ring tray on a vanity, a pair of earrings resting next to a book many recognize, a favorite of hers, highlighted and bent in the places that count. No caption this time. Just light through a window and the quiet suggestion that life is made of objects that keep their stories tucked inside. Those who wanted to see meaning saw it, those who wanted to protect her privacy called it coincidence. The truth, as always, lay in the space between. In the midst of this, the production continued. Colleagues described him as present, professional, and gracious, but the word that slipped into every account was thoughtful. Not distant, thoughtful. Between takes, he'd look up at the sky the way you do when you're measuring a feeling against the weather. When asked if the pressure was getting to him, he offered a calm answer: work is work. The heart finds its own timing. It sounded like a sentence he'd tested in his notebook, lived with for a while, and decided to keep. Meanwhile, messages poured toward her: support, concern, questions. She remained composed, stepping out only where she chose, maintaining the poised strength people love her for. A close friend, protective to a fault, said only this about what lay under the surface. She doesn't rush her answers. She listens to them, and then she speaks. In a world that rewards speed, patience can feel like rebellion. Every image and echo fed the same obsession: what happens next? Will they risk the weight of the past to step into the open, or will they keep their truce with quiet? Friends of friends started telling small stories. A missed call returned at an unlikely hour, a song sent with no explanation, a countdown to a meeting that may or may not happen. None of it confirmed, all of it irresistible. The thing about love that once belonged to millions is that it never entirely returns to private hands. But there is a version of tenderness that survives even here, where every glance becomes a theory. It shows up in the way two people protect what they share, even when they don't know what to call it. It shows up when he wears a ring around his neck because the safest place for a memory is close to the heart. It shows up when she lets a sunset speak for her because translating certain feelings into press language would only diminish them. Maybe this is a prologue masquerading as a sequel. Maybe it's a gentle farewell wrapped in one last song. Or maybe it's the kind of pause that invites the next word to arrive only when both voices are ready to say it. Whatever it is, it's here now, vivid and delicate, balancing on a line that could bend either way. If you don't want to miss a single breath of this unfolding chapter, every detail, every glance that lasts a moment too long, stay close to Secrets Behind the Stars. We will be here, listening, watching, and waiting with the same care that this story deserves. Where do we leave them tonight? With a call placed in the quiet, a sunset that might be an answer, a ring that refuses to be only metal, a voice note that still trembles when replayed. With questions asked softly so they can be heard. Is hope a beginning or a memory that glows? Is a second chance a door, or a window that lets in enough light to see what's already there? We will keep turning the pages as they write them, and we will honor the silences that say the most. For now, we hold on to the truth that their story lives inside everyone who believed in it, the ones who waited, who defended, who never stopped seeing what might be possible. Some endings aren't endings at all. They are bridges you can't see until you step onto them. And perhaps they are standing there now, on opposite sides, looking toward the center with the same steady breath, ready or not, for whatever the next step demands. Stay with Secrets Behind the Stars for the updates you know we'll find, and the care you know we'll bring. Until then, let the city keep their secrets, let the cameras rest, and let the heart do what it has always done, beat, remember, and reach.